All right, you're very welcome along to The Snap. It's our weekly American football show, and it's the final one of the NFL season because it's Super Bowl weekend. Ronan is here with us in studio. How are you?
All good. Pumped, Ger.
Excited?
This is the greatest sporting weekend of the year.
It is actually. There's loads of great sport happening, irrespective of what type of sport you like. And it starts early and it finishes very late on Monday morning. Let's go to Miami. Our man in Miami is Cian Fahey. Cian, how the hell are you?
I'm all right. How's it going back in Ireland? I'm right in the middle of South Beach here in Miami, which feels a little bit like Las Vegas at this point.
Right. Obviously, the quality of the Wi-Fi doesn't stretch to us being able to see the pictures. Obviously, or either that, or you're like, you don't really want to show us the pool party that you're at the moment to rub it in too much.
Well, no, I was meant to go to a Snoop Dogg and Saquon Barkley party last night, but I did not feel like going to that and tried to wake up for this at 8 a.m. So I probably should have gone to there and reported back, but in the end I skipped it and was responsible. Are
you serious? Is that you turned down the chance to go to the Snoop? Come on, Cian. That's you like. Somebody has trained you wrong. You got to go to that and then come here, still up, tired and emotional, and tell us what's going on with the video to support.
Well, the thing is, it was on at like 7 o'clock, and he turned up for half an hour and sang from behind the booth, and then just left. So it was one of those things where he was paid to go and just did the bare minimum and then left. So I probably could have gone to it, but I wasn't missing anything. Yeah,
fair enough. The coverage that I've been listening to from Miami says that in the city, the cognoscenti of American football have come together and they've decided that this is all one-way traffic, and they're all generally starting to trend towards picking the 49ers, which obviously means that the Kansas City Chiefs are going to win. Are you experiencing that on the ground?
I have noticed that quite a bit, actually, but I'm also noticing that there are far more 49ers fans here than Chiefs fans, which might be just the reason people are playing to the crowd here a little bit. The actual setup here is the city itself is a little bit separate from the actual beach. So on the beach is where all the TV shows are, where they've got these big setup, these big kind of, I guess they're like circus tents basically, where each TV show has their own tent. So if you literally walk down the beach, start at the top of Ocean Drive and walk to the bottom, you're just getting hit with strong take after strong take from different opinion after different opinion from the likes of Colin Cowherd and whoever's on ESPN at the moment. So you're hearing a lot of opinions from everyone, but it does generally feel like the 49ers are being that little bit more favoured the closer we get to the game.
Yeah, what else do you see in Miami that isn't showing up on the TV? Is it does all of American football come to celebrate this game? Like, it seems like it's unbelievably corporate, and with that, players from the next draft class, for example, I heard Joey Bosa and Nick Bosa's dad interviewed. They were there last year trying to pump Nick up and tell everybody he's going to be the next rookie of the year, for example, and no one should ever pass on picking him. Is that type of thing happening? Like, you're also seeing ex superstars, the Hall of Famers, wandering around, I presume.
Yeah, you're pretty much seeing everyone. Like the setup is at the convention center. It's very close to where all the hotels are for all the people who are here. So if you're in a specific area, you're going to see all kinds of different people, no matter where you are. It's a very weird thing because you get people like Steven Jackson's here, when I was told Steven Jackson is here, I thought Los Angeles Rams or St. Louis Rams running back. But actually, it was Steven Jackson, the NBA player, and I have no idea why he's here, but he's here doing interviews on Radio Row. And then you've got Martellus Bennett is here doing promoting and selling his children's book and doing signings for that. So it's really like the game is a little bit of a secondary aspect at this point, which makes sense because you've got 2 weeks of coverage to fill before you get to the actual game. And at this point, the players and the coaches are set up in their own hotels and doing mini training camp, I guess, preparing for the actual game. And they're actually quite far away. So the Chiefs are downtown in their hotel, I think, and the 49ers are very close to the actual stadium, which is kind of to the north at west, which is the complete opposite to where the convention center, which is southeast. So the actual players and stuff, you're obviously not going to see. You will see a lot of Hall of Fame players and retired players. Current players, not so much. I've seen the two Griffins from the Seahawks. They were here. Jason Witten is here. Whether he's a current or former player at this stage, I'm not sure. But funnily enough, he was on Fox, considering he's an ESPN guy, I believe. So you can see pretty much anyone here.
Yeah, and is the city aware that the Super Bowl is on? That's the other kind of thing that you like a big event like this to take over a city, the city to open its doors and go, right, I am aware that this thing is happening. It's a big deal for us. Is that happening?
Oh, sorry. No, I like the way that it's been a weird week because of Kobe Bryant. Like a lot of the people I've talked to have been saying, the first Sunday to Tuesday was really rough and not fun at all and a little bit emotional. But like for media people, they're all turning towards the Super Bowl and talking about the Super Bowl and listening and focusing on the Super Bowl now. But I think probably is a week that's going to be remembered as a kind of solemn week that was kind of mixed feelings week because Kobe was such a big guy over here and such a big name over here that even the Super Bowl is getting impacted by the coverage or is getting impacted by that tragedy. And the fact you throw his daughter into the mix as well, and that just is obviously a devastating thing and it's a huge tragedy. So the actual city itself is kind of taken over by the Super Bowl. Like there's signs everywhere as soon as you get off the airport. But as far as I've been told and as far as I know, it hasn't been completely the same as previous years. But the other thing about Miami is it's very much, like I said, like Vegas, like Times Square in New York, like New Orleans, where whether there's an event on, it doesn't really matter. This place is the same no matter what. It's kind of crazy no matter what. And the bartenders I was talking to the other night when I first arrived were telling me that the only real difference for them is they can change and put on automatic chargers and push up all their prices. So it's not exactly a cheap journey here either.
Right, so they are aware of the cash-making opportunities. Let's talk a little bit about the game. Have your thoughts on the game changed, evolved when you've been working over the last week? Has there been a eureka moment where you understand a little bit about why one team is going to work against the other?
No, like I've written, I think 4 articles this week, and I've I haven't really gone back and forth in my pick, but I haven't got more confident in what I'm thinking. Like the real thing to me is that the only major difference between these two teams is at the quarterback spot, and like Jimmy Garoppolo threw 8 times in that in the championship game. He also should have been intercepted on one of those throws, and he also did not he had 3 more plays erased by penalty. But in the playoffs as a whole, he just has played really poorly, and I feel like the focus has been on he didn't throw that much because he didn't have to, which is true. But he also has not played well. He did not play well in that Vikings game. He didn't play well in the championship game. And I think if they are going to win, it's not going to be in the same fashion, or actually, sorry, it does need to be in the same fashion as Nick Foles when he won his Super Bowl, because he didn't play well throughout the playoffs either, but has had his best game of the postseason, probably his best game of that season in the Super Bowl. And that was a game where the Eagles had a matchup advantage at every single spot, where the big surprise out of that game to me was how much the Patriots scored, not so much that the Eagles were able to move the ball easily with Nick Foles. I think my problem with kind of like in that game I picked the Eagles. I was very confident in the Eagles, and I remember we did a preview of it immediately before, and you were kind of surprised I was that confident in the Eagles. But in this game, I'm not that confident in the pick, because while I think the 49ers are the better team pretty much everywhere except for quarterback, I think those improvements are slight. Like the offensive line in San Francisco isn't greater individually, but it's greater as a collective. It's greater as a run blocking unit, whereas the Chiefs' offensive line is better pass blocking probably. If you look at the receivers, the Chiefs' individual receivers are better, but once you talk about Kyle Shanahan and they're working in that scheme, the 49ers wide receivers are kind of given a bit of a tick up. Travis Kelce, George Kittle, you can pick whoever you want there, because I personally think Kelce is better. But look at what Kittle can do in that offense. He's been phenomenal. So you can't really be like saying the Chiefs have a big advantage there or 49ers have a big advantage there. You can go through the whole team like that and point to little things. I think defensively the 49ers are far better. Offensively, the Chiefs are probably a little bit better. And just when you come to this sport and the design of this sport at the moment, having the greater quarterback and the better offense is the safer pick to me.
Just the eye test alone, and it has been punctured somewhat by the Kobe Bryant stuff, but the momentum post the championship games going into the Super Bowl was this is one of the most enticing matchups in recent years, probably since the Patriots against the Seahawks, just how the two teams match up. And it's kind of evidenced by the line, which is moving a little bit, but is kind of getting close to pick'em territory. And maybe one of the only comparisons to last year is the age profile of the two coaches, where you've got this Kyle Shannon's probably evolved a little bit beyond where Sean McVay was last year, but this hot young thing going up against this tried and tested coach. And I just wonder how much of an influence the coaches are going to have this weekend, given that the playmaking on both sides is quite similar.
And on that, Andy Reid has Andy Reid. When you say Andy Reid, everyone thinks, oh, Andy Reid can't manage the clock, can't win the Super Bowl, ruins everything at the end of the game. But also the other narrative of Andy Reid is incredibly good coming off of a bye. So if he's got 2 weeks now, it's not an actual bye, but because it's a 2-week break, it's the exact same thing, really. He's got that opportunity to prepare for every single thing that Shanahan's going to throw at him. He's got that opportunity to prepare for all those running plays that work perfectly in the Packers game that aren't going to be as effective in this game. Steve Spagnuolo, for what we all said about him as a head coach, has always been a very, very good defensive coordinator. And he's also been the architect of those 2 Giants victories over the Patriots, where he had 2 weeks to prepare for the best offenses. So coaching-wise, you kind of assume, hey, Kyle Shanahan has been probably coach of the year outside of John Harbaugh. Kyle Shanahan in general is a brilliant coach, and we overlook the fact that in that Super Bowl with the Falcons and the Patriots, Kyle Shanahan built that lead in the first half. Even if it fell apart in the second half, he still had the ability to build that lead and game plan for that. So you're looking at 2 coaches here who, coming off of a 2-week break, are incredibly good and incredibly impressive. And again, I start talking about this, and you talk about one coach, and it sounds like, oh, they very clearly have the advantage. And then you talk about the other coach, and you realize, yeah, these 2 guys are right next to each other again. So that's why this matchup is really perfect, because you can talk about any area of the team, and you're going to come away with this take of, hey, these 2 teams are really close. And I say that now, obviously one team is going to blow out the other.
Do you think it's going to be a high-scoring game where both teams' offenses actually manage to score early and often?
Yeah, well, I think I saw the over was 57.5, which is obviously crazy, a huge number, and I would probably take the over on that. And it's the problem for the 49ers is they have specific weak spots on defense, and if you have specific weak spots on defense, Patrick Mahomes is going to find them. There is no answer for Patrick Mahomes. Literally the only time the offense has been stopped throughout the playoffs is when his receivers have been dropping the ball. So if you're hoping and relying on the ball to be dropped for you to actually stop and contain the offense, you're definitely giving up points. The only, if you said to me one team doesn't score more than 20 points, I would say guaranteed it's the 49ers. Because if you can stop the actual run against the 49ers, which is a lot easier than it sounds, like you could say it, but it's a very, very difficult thing to do, you can probably contain that offense. Whereas no matter what you do against the Chiefs, like Patrick Mahomes is going to get you points. They are going to score at least 30 points. I think this game ends with one team over 40 and one team over 30, and it's just a matter of which one it is and which one comes out on top and probably which one scores last. Really.
All right, Cian, great stuff. We'll let you go there. Enjoy the game and enjoy the rest of your time on, is it Miami Beach? Is it, what? It is Miami Beach, that's what it's called, yeah?
Yeah, well, it's like this long stretch of
South
land.
Beach?
So I'm on North Beach at this stage. I was on South Beach from Sunday to Wednesday, but it was literally like everyone who's ever gone to Las Vegas tells you only stay in Las Vegas for 3 days, because after 3 days you're like sensory overload and you're just like you've lost the will to live. And South Beach is exactly like that. It's phenomenal, but it's also like, I'll put it this way: I turned up, got off my flight, 10-hour flight, went to my hotel, went down to the bar, and it was like 10 o'clock on a Sunday, and I just wanted to get food before I went to bed. And the bartender started pointing out which women were working there. I don't mean behind the bar. And there were a lot of them.
Right. We'll let you go on that note, Cian. Thanks very much. Cian Fahey with us from Miami and having his eyes opened by the world.
I'm not one bit jealous. It's going to be an unbelievable occasion.
Yeah.
And
so I meant to bring this up. I think he was complaining about how cliched it is to say that the Super Bowl should be in Miami and New Orleans all the time. But like cliches are cliches because they're true. And if the Super Bowl was every year in Miami, New Orleans, maybe in the new stadium in Los Angeles, and is there somewhere else that's hot?
Well, Las Vegas as well will be coming around.
Vegas, Arizona, maybe.
Yeah. Well, like the one time they tried to do it in New York, there was a very real threat that it was going to be snowed off, so they learned their lesson the hard way there. But no, it's just, this is such a great game, and it's personality driven as well. Like, we know how much the NFL like to build on the old franchise thing, but there's so many players in this game that have interesting stories, and like even the 2 tight ends, Kelsey and Kittle, have transcended the helmet, and they're recognisable figures in a way that maybe players in those positions wouldn't have been in previous years. And even Tyrann Mathieu, who, like, you could literally pick any player on either team. But this guy is so interesting that
2 ACLs or 3 ACLs he's come back from.
Incredible. And Troy Polamalu, there's a little bit of a debate around him at the moment about whether he's a Hall of Fame candidate, because he's a bit of a boom or bust player where he'd do some remarkable things, but then he might jump on the wrong route and like expose the team entirely. There was a little bit about that with Matthew, like he plays a little bit bigger than his frame would suggest, if you know what I mean. But what the Chiefs have done with him is they've got him up to the line, and it just means his energy sort of plays into the team. It's like, as much as he's an impactful player, I don't want to come across that he doesn't affect the play, but it's more what he brings to the line itself, and kind of gets involved more when he's up close to the line. So I think he's a cool guy to keep an eye on as well.
The turnaround that the 49ers have had over the last 3 seasons under Kyle Shanahan is fairly remarkable, and it feels a little bit like this might have just come one season early for them, in that there are so many of their players who are rookies who are important this year, or who are second-year players who are super important, and you just feel like I haven't seen the stats on the average number of minutes played or the average number of snaps that winning Super Bowl teams have had, but it would be interesting to kind of compare if you can have that many young players on a team and actually be as successful as San Francisco have been, and if this is the bit where they suddenly stray into deep water that they're not familiar with. Their leader on the defence, Fred Warner, he's second year, he's calling the plays from the defence perspective. Obviously, we've talked about Deebo Samuel, who has been a remarkable draft pick for them, considering their previous second round receiver has been a complete bust. Dante Pettis, who doesn't even get talked about, who is dressing at the moment, but I think is getting 1 snap per game. So, you know, they've had a lot of misses over the 3 seasons with some of their draft picks, but the ones they've hit on have been absolute home runs.
Yeah, and we talked at the live show that there is elements of fortune here, because 49ers were very much in the conversation for Antonio Brown this time last year before he went fully heel. And that was a very doable deal if they managed to get the pieces together. They obviously had that second round pick. They decided to use it on Bosa, or second pick overall rather. Decided to use it on Bosa. That was obviously a much better decision.
Yeah, there was
Odell Beckham as well they were linked with.
Yeah.
And instead they backed, and I just said to you off air there that they did the Senior Bowl last year, saw Deebo Samuel, just fell in love with him, and he's their guy now, and it was just a remarkable decision.
Trey Greenlaw was at the Senior Bowl last year as well, and he's the guy who makes the tackle in Seattle on the goal line that prevents that 4th down from being a touchdown, which gives them the home advantage which gives them the bye to rest everybody up and gives them the home advantage for the whole way through in the number 1 seed. And that single tackle transforms their season to the point where they're very well rested. Everybody's pretty close to being fully fit. Tevin Coleman, obviously.
It's a fascinating coaching drill. We mentioned it with Cian there, but like, it's 15 years since Andy Reid was at this stage of the season. I think Dick Vermeil was the only one who's had a longer gap, 19 years or something. So 15 years for Reid, and he's probably got Hall of Fame credentials already for whatever Hall of Fame.
6th winningest coach in history.
Yeah.
But
there is an element of pressure on him.
Well, it's totally, because the other 5 who are ahead of him all have Super Bowls. So that feels to me like this is all coming to Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes and the coronation of the new king of American sport, because that's what's on offer here for Patrick Mahomes. Like, for anybody who's kind of unfamiliar with how this works, he's still on his rookie deal, which means that he's getting paid a fraction of what he's actually worth. So this is year 3 of the Patrick Mahomes. Yeah, year 3.
Second year as a starter. He sat the first year.
Exactly. So they didn't get any value from that year, except obviously they were doing exactly the right thing. So he's got 1 more year of his rookie deal, and then there's the 5th year option that they have because they took him in the first round. So essentially they have him under contract for the next 2 years at a cheap rate. I don't know, it could be 10 million a year probably. But he's actually worth between 40 and potentially 60 million a year. That's the level of contract that they might have to give him if he wins the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Because he's now so far ahead of I think Lamar might be a bit closer to him than people think, and when they get the rest of the team around him that he has at the moment, we'll see what that duel is like for the next couple of years.
The brinkmanship is really interesting because Dak Prescott is on the verge of signing a new deal.
Or not, as the news today was that he's going to sit if they franchise him.
Yeah, because if he gets paid now, he's going to be the highest paid quarterback in the league. But that will elicit a change where everyone else gets bumped up another little bit. So it's currently Russell Wilson, but if Prescott gets it, whoever's next up will get more than him. But these guys need to get their deals done after Patrick Mahomes, because he's going to set the bar so high that it's going to, that rising tide will lift all boats, you know what I mean?
In a way, you wonder if the Chiefs are actually better tying him in now, because the new collective bargaining agreement is kind of hurtling towards its conclusion, and who knows what the result of that is going to be, and it will be very interesting to see what they do with him. So for him, on a personal level, there are tens of millions of dollars at play. The difference between being a Super Bowl winning quarterback who's carried the franchise through, who's recovered from a kneecap, was it distended or dislocated earlier on in the season, to come back and play and go on one of the great all-time playoff runs from a quarterback who's in his third season, who's still effectively a kid, who's still learning how to be a full-time professional athlete. His marketability is off the charts. On the other side, then, it would feel like this is the birth of something unbelievable in San Francisco because they're so young, because their defense is still a bunch of players still on their rookie contracts, and they will be a force for the next 3 or 4 seasons. They'll be a force as long as Kyle Shanahan stays there.
Yeah.
They haven't responded very well as a franchise to losing Super Bowls in the past. This was the breakup of the Harbaugh team, was losing that and not winning the Super Bowl, and him wanting to be paid like a Super Bowl winning coach. It seems like the ownership have matured since then and know exactly what they're doing, and they obviously have long-term contracts in place. So it's a kind of hinge moment for both franchises.
Yeah, and the way this game is going to go, when you compare the two sides, I do actually think the 49ers are way better. But so if you are picking the Chiefs, as many people are, if the line is anything to go by, you're backing Patrick Mahomes there.
Yeah.
And I actually think that's why I'm picking the Chiefs, because when it all breaks down, and it inevitably does in the Super Bowl, when does it ever go as predicted? Hardly ever. So I think the 49ers are just a little bit more finely tuned. There's a little bit of a domino effect where if something goes wrong, the system goes wrong. That's the nature of play action. Jimmy Garoppolo can't stand back there and pick you apart in the same way Mahomes does.
So the one thing, the only corollary to that is that he's brilliant in the intermediate passing area. Obviously, there's been a few interceptions thrown to that general area, but ordinarily gets the ball out so fast. Those little short, he throws short of the sticks all the time. With other systems, that's seen as like a complete disaster. But he'll throw the ball 3 yards. There'll be 3 yards after the catch, and they'll get 6 yards off those, where he'll have the ball in his hands for less than 2 seconds. And I actually think that if the run game falls apart, San Francisco are still going to be in this game. And I think he's good enough to get them into the game, which is why I think the game's going to be close. But ultimately, I too would be picking the Chiefs.
Because you look at the 49ers, there's so much misdirection in their play. They're trying to, there's little quirks here and there, wrinkles in their game. The Chiefs not really like that. It's a spread offense. And when you think back to this game, I think it was the first game of the 2017 season where it was Alex Smith at the quarterback position, and they destroyed the Patriots in New England. And there was nothing spectacular about what they were doing. They were just spreading out all these fast guys, finding the single coverage and going at it. And that's what it's going to be this week. They're going to get all their fast guys out there.
The Chiefs.
Yeah. Like, that's not a dramatically difficult system. If it all breaks down, Mahomes is just going to find somebody that's open. And I just think he's more capable of doing that. If Garoppolo's first couple of reads aren't there, he might panic. Like, it'd be perfectly natural for someone to freeze in that kind of situation.
Yeah, I think who's more likely to panic, I don't know.
Well,
you think it's going to be Garoppolo, but then the pressure and the weight of the entire city and the 50 years of history rests on the shoulders of a 23-year-old. With Jimmy Garoppolo, he has George Kittle to just feck it off to. Like, worst case scenario, where the hell is Kittle? Okay, double coverage. I don't care, George. I've seen this before, and you always catch it, and he does. So, and Debo, there's 2 outlets there where they can be covered and they will still make catches.
Yeah, and obviously the Joe Montana game and all that kind of stuff. But I don't think it quite occurred to me how much of a dearth of success the Kansas City Chiefs have had. Like, Joe Buck is going to be calling this game. The last time they were in the Super Bowl, his dad called it.
Right.
It was 50 years ago.
I didn't realise that.
So it's incredible. They're not one of these downtrodden franchises, or that's certainly how I would have associated with them. Like, obviously the Vikings, the Lions, the Browns.
Yeah, the Browns are, I don't think, are deserved in the conversation of heartbreak that the Kansas City Chiefs are. The Browns are just like, they're nowhere close to Mayo's level of heartbreak. 2 things I want to tell you about. A reminder, of course, American Football and Off the Ball is brought to you in association with the Aer Lingus College Football Classic. That's Navy versus Notre Dame. There's one of the balls at the Aviva Stadium on the 29th of August. Check out collegefootballireland.com. You can sign up for the latest updates there. But while you're signing up there, you should also sign up to offtheball.com/Club Gridiron. Be part of our OTB American Football Hub, where you'll get the latest news around all things gridiron, including the Snap, our podcast, and the latest news and reports from the Irish American Football League. you can head over to offtheball.com/Club Gridiron for the details of that. And we're going to be bringing you some of the best highlights from grassroots American football here in Ireland and the latest coaching trends as well. And if you want to sign up for a local team, they're all over the country, and we'll give you details in the coming weeks of how to do that. I was supposed to also tell everybody about the party that's happening in the Odeon this week. There's a pair of tickets for next year's Super Bowl up for grabs for everybody who shows up on the night, but you've got to get your tickets. You can check that out on Facebook. If you search Super Bowl party and the Odeon in Dublin, you'll find it. Apologies for which of the teams that sent me the details that I said I would read out. I have completely forgotten which one, and I don't want to give credit to the wrong one. So anyway, the other thing that I was actually going to start the show with, we're not doing our Super Bowl preview this week. We're actually going to be asking the question, is Tom Brady an attention-seeking narcissist, given that he tweeted this picture this morning? It reminded me a little bit of this is the picture, no words around it, 130,000 likes, and everybody got, ah! To the point where Adam Schefter had to, I guess, ring Tom Brady or text him and go, is this about your contract? And apparently it's nothing to do with his contract. It might be something to do with some marketing thing. Who knows? TB12. Maybe it's Alex Guerrero selling us something. Who knows?
Yeah. Something about Tom Brady, right? So
beast mode, hanging up his cleats at halftime in the game a couple of years ago. Do you remember that? Mm-hmm. Attention seeking.
Yeah, it's not on. It's Jerry Jones level of narcissism. But Tom Brady, voracious winner, has won so much over the years. But I think, and you alluded to TB12, that's what this is about. This is, I can play till I'm 45 because my regime is so spot on. And that's what he's selling. He's selling his brand now. I don't think he expects to go to wherever he goes, Tennessee. If he stays in New England, they're certainly not winning anything. If he goes to LA, it's a marketing ploy.
Hang on, if he stays in New England?
Yeah, they're not winning anything.
Ah, come on, there's a really good team. Their defense is amazing. Nah. Add in any receivers. Give him anybody to throw the ball to.
Say that about any quarterback, though.
Not really.
It's hilarious. It's like, give a quarterback better receivers, he's going to be better.
Marcus Mariota, no. Honestly, I mean, yes, give any quarterback, but look who he was throwing the ball to for the last 2 seasons.
Yeah. Well, I was watching an old Aaron Rodgers interview with Bill Simmons from Any Given Wednesday. This show that
it lasted about a week.
Didn't last very long. But he asked him, would he rather have an A- offensive line and D- receivers, or vice versa?
Oh, yeah.
And Aaron Rodgers would take the offensive line all day long.
Yeah.
So a good quarterback's going to back themselves to, if they're protected well, to find the open guy. Tom Brady apparently needs an all-class receiver class now. I don't...
But he needs anybody who's any good. He needs them not to be trading away their best tight end to Seattle.
And for all Bill Belichick is the football whisperer, he can't identify wide receivers very well.
No, he's pretty useless at that.
Like N'Keal Harry, we'll give him the benefit of the doubt.
All the way back to Aaron Dobson is the one that I remember. He was a second rounder that...
Chad Ochocinco against the Giants.
Well, look, I think at least with him, it's kind of some outlet who you're kind of going, come on, you've done this before. On reputation alone, we hope that they're going to mark you up, but it turned out they didn't have to.
And then they had Randy Moss, this all-world
and he was
wide receiver, and decided, we're going to go the Yap Stam route here and get rid of him in his prime.
Yeah, they definitely didn't need to do that. They needed to pay him. But look, Wes Welker on the sideline this week.
Might win a Super Bowl this week.
On the sideline this week. That was one of those off-season where they hired him and they hired one of the ex-Dallas receivers as well, just to work in the receiver room. Because at the start of the year, everybody was saying the San Francisco 49ers have nobody to throw the ball to. Their wide receiver core is absolutely useless. And if you take Deebo Samuel out, their wide receiver core was completely useless. They added in Emmanuel Sanders midway through the season. But like after that, slim pickings. Kendrick Bourne.
Sanders is quality though.
Sanders is quality.
Blue chip player. If his number's called this weekend, you can rely on him.
Second best quarterback on the team.
Yeah. Do you think that's going to come into play?
Oh, absolutely. Like when we were talking Nick Foles and the comparisons. So when Cian was talking about the Eagles team and Nick Foles being able to carry them and play the best game, it was interesting that the key play in the game, they took the ball out of his hands and they went, you just go run over there and catch it. Just go and catch the ball. Just open your hands and catch the ball. Don't fake it up. And he was able to do that. So, I think there's a lot of trickery. I think I don't know what type of game it's going to be. I really hope it's not the same as last year because, like last year, looked like it was all set up to be a classic.
Yeah.
Sean McVay's team were rolling. That offense was great. Maybe we'd forgotten or underplayed the fact that their best running back has arthritis in his knee. But this year, everybody's playing well. Tevin Coleman's injury, I think, is going to be okay. they'll strap him up and they'll jab him with enough drugs to make sure that he, thinks he's on Mars, and that's enough to get him through 4 hours of a Super Bowl.
Yeah, and I don't think anyone thought Mostert would be a talking point going into this Super Bowl, but after that, remarkable performance in the championship game. But because it's such a systems-based approach from the 49ers, he might touch the ball a couple of times this week.
I think
it could be any running back.
I think that's overplayed a bit, to be honest. I think that whoever's going well gets it, because Brady at the start of the season was going well and he was getting it, and then Coleman got fit and it was like, okay, we actually think you're better, and then Mostert was getting everything. He doesn't get the first one, but he always got the bulk of it when he was fully fit. He missed the game through injury. There was a little bit and then Coleman came back and played really well. The system is outstanding. Brady fumbled at the end of the game when the game was already over and has barely been seen since. I think 2 carries in the last 2 games. So I'd be amazed if everything doesn't. Coleman gets the first one. They test out his shoulder, see if it's okay, so that then he can be on the field as a receiver if they need him to be. But I think it's going to be Mostert running the ball down the throat.
But I do think if it's a Todd Gurley situation where for whatever reason he doesn't hit his straps early on, it's very much a drag and drop system for the 49ers. The next guy up is just going to be put in to run the exact same plays.
Yeah.
And Mostert, if you look at his touchdowns, was basically untouched for all of them. It's schemed in such a way where he gets a clear run, and we all know he ran that, I think, a 4.2 in Purdue, obscene quickness. And people wonder, is it 7 teams he's been on now?
Yeah.
Cut 6 times or something. But it's not as if, how did everyone miss this guy? Kyle Shanahan deserves enormous credit for turning him into what he is, because he's not a huge running back, I think under 200 pounds when he came into the league, but he's got that unbelievable quickness, and if you can get him a clear lane, you're not catching him.
Yeah, I think probably the education of working on this, different players respond to it in different ways, and if you can sit in a classroom for the hours and hours and hours that they do, and then go, okay, I understand exactly that when the offensive line is going this way, I'm going to go that way first and break at precisely the right moment, and that's where the lane opens up. There's a science to, there's a weird balletic beauty to what the 49ers offensive line are doing when you see the breakdowns afterwards. I don't know, do you see Baldy's breakdowns on...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that stuff is okay, I begin to understand exactly why so many people spend so much time on the intricacies of the offensive line play, because if everybody does what they're supposed to do and they all move in concert, you have several tons of force moving people out of the way, and everybody's going, oh, there's a bomb happening there. It is a bit like Guernica. And if the running back has a coolness about him, then all he has to do is hit that one gap. And because you're going one way and everybody else going the other, there's no way they're going to catch it.
That would be my concern if I was a 49ers fan, that it's so entwined, it's so reliant on these systems going well, and as I said earlier, the opposition aren't quite as reliant on that. A bit of freelancing isn't the worst thing in the world. If this game breaks down into backyard football, I think Andy Reid would be just fine with that.
You've got some prop bets for us?
Well, this Super Bowl halftime show, we've got back from the irredeemable dross of Maroon 5 last year, so it's Shakira and Jennifer Lopez, which I think is very solid. Unbelievable value here. Jenny from the Block, 12-1 to be Jennifer Lopez's first song. I think that's remarkable value.
Her first solo song, because presumably it'll be medley bollocks.
Well, I think they're going to take it in turns, maybe do a couple of covers.
Right.
But we just don't know. This is unprecedented territory, Jerry. You don't really see these double acts that much.
They're going to do Will Smith's Welcome to Miami, aren't they?
There's a prop bets elsewhere on whether Will Smith will turn up for a bit of a cameo. There always is a cameo, so it wouldn't be a bad idea. How long will Demi Lovato take to sing the national anthem? This is always a good one. Over 2 minutes, 4 to 11.
All right. That's quite long, isn't it?
I don't know.
Did they not horse through it now? Is there not No. I don't know. I never actually watched the...
Oh, really?
No.
The anthem or the halftime show?
The anthem. And the halftime show I kind of tend to
Depends who it is, though.
Well, I'll pause a good bit in the first half and then fast forward through it.
Well, Maroon 5 took the one that nobody wanted to take last year because it was a bit of a bad PR around the NFL last year, and I think Jay-Z was supposed to do it, and he said that probably wouldn't be the best idea.
Yeah, but Jay-Z's in bed with him, so
On that topic, Colin Kaepernick to appear in a Nike ad during the Super Bowl, it would be a good ploy.
What's the odds?
So we're talking 6-1 for that to happen.
That's decent odds.
I think that could very well happen. So, there's so many prop bets on Gatorade. What colour will the Gatorade be?
No thanks, stay away from that.
Will the ball hit the upright? All the stuff. Whatever you want, if you can get it priced up, don't worry about it.
Yeah.
But who's going to win the game, Ger? That's the...
Look, I think the most likely outcome is that Patrick Mahomes is crowned the best athlete in American sport. But obviously the one that I want as a 49ers fan is for us to crush them.
Yeah. But if you're trying to sell this to your non-NFL loving friend, you're saying, just look at Patrick Mahomes. Look him up on YouTube there.
Yeah.
And
but also the 49ers defence is sensational.
Yeah.
Like Nick Bosa, D Ford, the two Twin Towers in the middle. There will be a lot of fights.
Can D Ford deny the Kansas City Chiefs 2 years in a row?
I mean, that would be the sweetest. So, the America's game is D Ford, George Kittle, and maybe Richard Sherman.
Yeah.
Maybe
Richard
Deebo
Sherman,
Samuel.
who, the America's game is going to be unbelievable. The 30 for 30 on the Legion of Boom and what's gone on since is going to be remarkable as well. But Richard Sherman deserves an awful lot of credit. Talk about backing yourself with his contract negotiations. He went in there Paul Scholes style with no agent and said, right, I want a benefit-driven contract if I hit these goals. And they were like, yeah, happy days. We're not going to get to the Super Bowl anytime soon. And now he's been...
I think they knew that and they were backing him as well. It was like the perfect marriage of like cockiness and attitude. And there's far more amazing stories around the 49ers if they win, as opposed to Tyreek Hill and his troubled past.
But Sherman is a classic case of fake it till you make it. He was talking a big game long before he was ever a top player. Then he was all pro, playing at a really good level.
Then he did his Achilles.
But the last couple of years in Seattle and his first little stint in San Francisco, his profile had almost overtaken his play, but that's totally reversed now, where he's back playing at an all-pro level.
And I think he could go on
and
for
Darrell
years.
Reeves is very jealous.
Yeah, and rightly so. I think because his game was never based on pace, so he could actually go on. He could be one of those guys who plays till he's 36, 37 and has a completely legendary second act and becomes as synonymous with the 49ers as he is with the Seahawks. At the moment, he's in there for his Seahawks play, but I think if they were to win, and he sticks around for another couple of seasons, which I think he probably will, then it'll be like, oh, was he a Seahawk or was he a Niner? I'm happy to steal that. Right, that is it this week. Are you done?
Yeah, I'm going to pick the Chiefs. I said 10 points last week. I'm going to whittle that down a little bit, but I think the Chiefs will get the job done.
All right. I hope you're wrong, but either way, there'll be analysis and reaction on Monday morning's OTBAM, and of course, we'll be back here next week with The Snap. It's your weekly American football show. We cover everything from the NFL to college football to the local game here in Ireland, and it's all brought to you in association with the Aer Lingus College Football Classic. This year it's Navy against Notre Dame at the Aviva Stadium on the 29th of August. You can go to collegefootballireland.com to sign up for the latest updates, and we'll have some updates over the next week or so as some of the ESPN folk are in town to talk about that game, so we'll be talking to them as well about the very next college game day, which is going to be the one that happens in Dublin in August. Wherever you're watching the Super Bowl, enjoy it. It's very late. It's a very late kickoff, so it's marathon, not a sprint. Don't be getting too liquored up too early. We've all done that. And you fall asleep and you don't remember what happened and you actually end up missing one of the great sports occasions of the year. So you want to pace yourself nicely.
Are you in here Monday morning?
I am, yeah. Yeah.
Win or lose?
Oh, yeah, totally. It's work. Got to go to work. I took the day off last year. It was pointless.
But your team weren't in it last year.
I know. But I'm coming in. Going to present OTBM. I'll be here bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, a bit bleary-eyed. Maybe half asleep at 7:30 on Monday morning. And I'll see you then. Enjoy the game. Bye.